Hey, what's up everybody? The two new Sakura Tsums are here, and in this video I'm going to cover Sakura Minnie from the Mickey and Friends series. The drop rate for Sakura Minnie is a little bit lower compared to Sakura Daisy, so for me I do have all of the other Tsums unlocked, and my drop rate for Sakura Minnie is going to be 46.67% compared to Sakura Daisy, which is 53.33%. Now your drop rates are going to be a little bit different depending on which Tsums you already have unlocked, but if you're only missing these two Tsums, then we're going to have the exact same drop rates. So let's get into it and take a look at Sakura Minnie. Her ability description is clear surrounding Tsums when you tap the Sakura Mochi, and this is going to be one of my favorite animations, which we'll get into a little bit later. But let's first take a look at her stats. In order for you to activate her ability, you're going to need to clear a total of 14 copies of her off the screen. And 14 is pretty low, so you're likely going to be able to activate a lot of abilities per game, especially if you have her at skill level 6. The minimum score is 100 with a maximum score of 933. And because her ability is really easy to activate, this is actually not too bad if you get her to level 50, but for the lower levels it's not that great. And if you want to get her to skill level 6, you're going to need to get a total of 32 copies of her from the premium box or using skill tickets. But before you go and spend your skill tickets on this Tsum, I would recommend you to watch this video in its entirety and decide for yourself which skill level you want to get Sakura Minnie to. It may not be worth it depending on what you're looking for. So let's take a look at her ability. At skill level 1, her ability is going to create a total of 3 mochis, and every single time you level up her skill level, it's going to increase that mochi by 1. And essentially what that does is it increases the burst areas, and generally speaking it's going to be in the shape of like a rectangle. It's going to be more on the center area, but as you level up the skill level, it's going to be more of a circle shape. And before I go any further, if you guys are enjoying this type of content where I review Tsums, do monthly leaks, go over the selection box and pick up capsules, please consider subscribing to this channel. Your subscription is greatly appreciated. And if you guys are looking for a community of other Tsum Tsum players where you can chat about the game or ask for help, consider scanning this QR code on the screen and join the Discord server. Okay, so let's get back into Sakura Minnie. So we're going to take a look at all 6 of the skill levels, starting with skill level 1, 2, and 3. At skill level 1, we're going to have a total of 3 mochis, 4 mochis for skill level 2, and finally for skill level 3, we're going to have a total of 5 mochis. And we're going to take a look at the skill range a little bit later. But I do want to cover the strategy when it comes to using Sakura Minnie. And the first thing I want to point out is during her animation, the screen doesn't freeze. And what I mean by that is Tsums are going to continue to fall regardless if you activate the ability or not. Some Tsums, when you press that ability button, the Tsums will stop falling from the top of the screen. And what that happens is it generates gap in the center area. But in the case of Sakura Minnie, it doesn't freeze. So what that means is that you should always use the overcharge effect to try to overcharge your skill, so that way you have additional skills that will go into your next charge up. And by doing this, instead of 14, you're going to get less than that, sometimes maybe 13, 12, or maybe even 10 or less. In some cases, I've seen people where they charge enough for 2 abilities, which is very possible, but it's pretty rare, but it is definitely possible. So number 1, use the overcharge effect. And then number 2, I recommend to always press on the mini that has Sakura Minnie in it. And essentially what happens when you do that is it will burst all of the mochis at once. It's very similar to Cabbage Mickey, but in this case, the right strategy is to actually tap on the Sakura Minnie right away. Versus Cabbage Mickey, you might not want to do that right away. So for Sakura Minnie, you definitely want to burst it all at once to get the largest chain possible. Now the next thing I want to show you guys is a side-by-side comparison of the abilities activated at the same time. Now this is one of my favorite animation in the entire game. I just really like the Sakura flower, so let me slow this down and show you exactly what's actually happening here. Sakura will wink and then wrap herself in her leaf and then bounces onto the center of the screen as a mochi. Now take a closer look here. One of the mochis will have a Sakura Minnie in the middle. The other ones might be chocolate or it may just be hollow. But essentially what you want to do is you want to tap on the mochi that has Sakura Minnie in it. And for skill level 1, you're going to get 3 mochis, 4 mochis for skill level 2, and 5 mochis for skill level 3. Now this number will remain consistent and won't change. So like I mentioned, you want to tap on the mochi with Sakura Minnie in it. And essentially when you do this, it's going to burst the other mochi as well, counting as one big chain. And you want to get the largest chain possible. The longer the chain, the more coins and the more points you're going to get at the end of that chain. So for skill level 1, you'll see I got a chain of 14, skill level 2 I got a chain of 19, and skill level 3 I got a chain of 22. Now this number is going to vary depending on how your screen is set up. So if you have some bubbles that are in the middle of the screen, your chain is going to be decreased because some of those bubbles are going to get in the way of your chain count. Alright, so now moving on to skill level 4, 5, and 6. At skill level 4, there's going to be a total of 6 mojis. Skill level 5, there will be 7 mojis, and at skill level 6, there will be 8 mojis. Now there's actually one more tip that I have for you guys that I didn't share earlier, and that's before and after you activate Sakura Minnie's ability, you ideally want to burst bubbles. The reason why you want to burst bubbles before activating her ability is to get rid of those bubbles so that way you set up your screen properly to activate the ability. Like I mentioned, the bubbles will get in the way if they are on the center area, so you want to get rid of those bubbles that are in the middle section of the screen before activating the ability. And the reason why you want to burst the bubbles after the ability is because there's a very high chance that by bursting those bubbles on the screen, you're going to be able to get back into ability time like you just saw there for skill level 6 where I have back-to-back abilities. Because remember, the charge up is only 14, so it's going to be very easy to activate the ability back-to-back, especially at the higher skill level where you clear a lot of zooms off the screen, and if you're using the overcharge effect, you're going to be able to activate a lot of abilities per game. So try to burst bubbles before and after every single time you activate Sakura Minnie's ability. So let's take a look at her abilities activated at the same time at these higher skill level. So like I mentioned earlier, at skill level 4 there's going to be a total of 6 mojis, skill level 5 there will be 7 mojis, and at skill level 6 there's going to be a total of 8 mojis. The animation is going to remain the same throughout the entire skill level, so they're going to be set up exactly like this. Like I mentioned, skill level 6 is going to clear off a majority of the screen, so you want to make sure there are no bubbles that will get in the way. And these particular gameplays that I picked out here, none of the bubbles got in the way for these clears, so I was able to maximize the amount that I was able to get cleared. At skill level 4, I got a chain of 26, 30 for skill level 5, and 32 for skill level 6. And just like the lower skill level, it depends on how your screen is set up. The chains could be higher, especially if you have a big zoom on the screen, and less if you have magic bubbles on the screen as well. So there are some trade-offs depending on how you want to play Sakura Minnie, but I found it most helpful by just emptying the screen, make sure there are no bubbles on the screen, and also utilizing the overcharge. So ultimately, Sakura Minnie is not necessarily the best zoom in the game, but at the same time it's not the worst. I kind of wish these Sakura zooms were a lot better where I could use them on a regular basis to earn coins. I just really like the animation and I really love the Japanese theme of these zooms. It's just a little unfortunate that they're not very powerful. And although you don't need to use gyro to play this zoom, it's not necessarily the best for beginners either, because there's a lot of variables and things you need to account for when you're playing this zoom, and there's a lot of things you need to pay attention to. You have to pay attention to the charge up bar and see how charged up your screen or your ability is, and you may need to start pressing the ability button sooner rather than later. And then you also want to burst bubbles that are off the screen, so there's a lot of different variables you need to take account when you're playing this zoom. It's not one of those zooms where you can mindlessly play and just spam the ability button and not have to burst any bubbles, so that's a variable that you want to consider. But regardless, let me show the results for all 6 of these gameplays. At skill level 1, I was able to get 575 coins with 3.1 million points. And actually one thing I do want to call out, all of these gameplays were played with the 5-4 boost on, so as you can tell, skill level 1 is really not worth it. It's not until probably skill level 5 is when you want to start using the 5-4 and the coin boost. You could technically use the 5-4 only at skill level 4, but you're not going to be earning a lot of coins there, so it's really not worth it. So it's not until you get her to skill level 5 before it's worth it to use the 5-4 and coin boost. But at that point, you've already spent 16 skill tickets, well 15 skill tickets, because assuming you got 1 copy of her already. But it's really not worth it using your skill tickets on this zoom. There's definitely better resources you could use your skill tickets on. And at skill level 6, I was able to get almost 4,000. I got 3,960 coins with 15 million points. So nothing too amazing here. So I recommend you guys to save your coins and save your skill tickets and not invest it in Sakura Minnie. It may be good to just get 1 copy just for collection purposes, just because the animation is so cool. So that's my review of Sakura Minnie. I hope that you guys found this video helpful or at least entertaining. And if you would like to see more Tsum Tsum content just like this, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching.